Don't let him inside! The words echoed across the crowded school cafeteria just as a tired man in dusty work boots reached for the door. Every parent turned to stare. A security guard stepped in front of him, while dozens of children watched in silence. At a nearby table, 10-year-old Ethan lowered his head, wishing he could disappear. Someone whispered, "That's the repairman kid's dad." Laughter spread through the room. But less than 20 minutes later, the very people mocking that man would be standing to applaud him. And one unexpected moment would teach every child in that cafeteria what real success truly looks like. That morning, the city of Portland woke to another busy weekday. Parents hurried to work, school buses filled the streets, and teachers welcomed students into class. In a modest apartment across town, 39-year-old Michael Brooks flipped pancakes while packing an oversized lunch for his son, Ethan. Ever since Ethan's mother passed away 5 years earlier, the two had depended on each other. Life wasn't easy, but every morning Michael promised himself one thing: his son would never feel unloved, no matter how hard life became. As Ethan grabbed his backpack, he paused near the front door. "Dad, you're still coming today, right?" Michael frowned, confused. "Coming where?" Ethan's smile faded. "Never mind." Before Michael could ask another question, the boy hurried outside and caught the school bus. The morning disappeared in a blur of repair calls. Michael climbed rooftops, fixed broken heating units, and answered emergency service requests across the city. Around noon, his phone buzzed. The school's office was calling. "Mr. Brooks, don't panic. Ethan is perfectly fine," the secretary said. Michael sighed with relief, but her next sentence made his stomach drop. "Today is our family lunch celebration, and Ethan has been checking the entrance every few minutes." Michael looked at the dashboard clock. 12:18 p.m. Lunch began in barely 12 minutes, and he was nearly 20 minutes away. Guilt hit him like a punch. He remembered Ethan mentioning the event weeks ago, but work and unpaid bills had pushed it out of his mind. Without another word, he apologized to his customer, grabbed his worn-out tool bag, and raced toward Lincoln Ridge Elementary, hoping he wasn't already too late. Michael's old service van screeched into the school parking lot. He jumped out, still wearing his faded work uniform, sleeves stained with grease and dust from a long morning on the job. As he hurried toward the cafeteria, he overheard two parents quietly judging his appearance. He ignored them. The only thing that mattered was Ethan. Inside the cafeteria, laughter echoed from every table. Families shared meals while children smiled proudly beside their parents. But at one corner table, Ethan sat alone with an untouched lunch tray. A group of classmates had noticed the empty chair beside him. "So, your dad forgot again?" one boy sneered. "My mom says people with jobs like his are always too busy," another added. A few kids laughed. Ethan forced a weak smile and looked toward the entrance, still hoping. "He'll come," he whispered, though even he wasn't sure anymore. Just then, the cafeteria doors slowly opened. Every head turned toward the entrance as Michael stepped inside, breathing heavily after running across the parking lot. For a brief second, the entire room fell completely silent. Ethan's face lit up the moment he saw his father. "Dad, you actually came?" he shouted, pushing back his chair. Michael smiled through heavy breaths. "I told you I'd never stop trying, buddy. Sorry I'm late." As Michael sat beside him, he noticed the awkward silence surrounding the table. The children who had been laughing moments earlier suddenly avoided eye contact. He didn't need anyone to explain what had happened. Instead of getting angry, Michael reached into his weathered tool bag and placed a small metal device on the table. "Anyone curious what I was fixing this morning?" he asked with a grin. The kids leaned closer. With the press of a button, the tiny inspection robot rolled forward, its lights flashing before its small camera slowly rotated. A chorus of surprised gasps replaced the earlier laughter. "You built that?" one student asked. Michael chuckled. No, I brought it back to life. That's what repair technicians do. We fix the things everyone else gives up on. Even Tyler, who had mocked Ethan the loudest, stared at the little machine with wide eyes. For the first time that afternoon, nobody cared about Michael's dirty uniform. They only saw his skill. Before anyone could say another word, the cafeteria doors opened again. This time it was the school principal walking with the district's maintenance director. The director spotted Michael and smiled immediately. There you are! I've been trying to reach you all morning. Michael looked surprised. Is everything okay? The man laughed. Better than okay. The heating system you repaired at our middle school passed inspection this morning. If you hadn't found that hidden gas leak, we might have evacuated hundreds of students today. Parents nearby stopped eating and turned to listen. The principal nodded. You didn't just repair a machine, Mr. Brooks. You may have prevented a serious accident. The room became silent. The same parents who had judged Michael's dusty clothes moments earlier now looked at him with respect. Tyler slowly lowered his head, realizing how wrong he'd been. Ethan looked at his father with proud eyes. For the first time that day, he wasn't the boy with the empty chair. He was the son of a man whose work protected families every single day, even if nobody noticed it before. When lunch was almost over, Tyler slowly walked over to Ethan's table. The confidence he had earlier was completely gone. I owe you an apology, he said quietly. I judged your dad without knowing anything about him. Ethan looked at his father, who simply gave him a gentle nod. It's okay, Ethan replied. Just don't make fun of someone because of their job. Tyler swallowed hard. I won't. Nearby, a teacher who had witnessed everything smiled proudly. Class, she called. Before we leave, I want everyone to remember something. A person's value isn't measured by expensive clothes or fancy job titles. It's measured by character and the difference they make in other people's lives. The cafeteria filled with applause. Several parents walked over to shake Michael's hand, thanking him not only for protecting the community through his work but also for handling the situation with patience instead of anger. As students lined up to return to class, Ethan walked beside his father with a smile that hadn't left his face. The embarrassment he had carried all morning had disappeared. In its place was something far stronger: respect, confidence, and pride in the man who had never stopped showing up for him when it mattered most. That evening, life returned to normal, or so Michael thought. After dinner, Ethan was finishing his homework when Michael's phone began buzzing nonstop. Friends, former customers, and even strangers were sending the same message. Have you seen the video? Confused, Michael opened the link. Someone had recorded the moment he entered the cafeteria, the children's cruel comments, his calm response, and the principal's heartfelt words. The clip had already been viewed hundreds of thousands of times, with people praising the single father who chose kindness over anger. The next morning, local news stations picked up the story. Parents across the city shared it online, calling Michael a true role model. Even more surprising, several businesses contacted his repair company, requesting him by name because they trusted a man who showed integrity under pressure. As Michael dropped Ethan off at school, something felt different. Instead of whispers and laughter, students smiled and waved. Tyler walked over first. Morning, Ethan. Then another classmate joined him, and another. For the first time in a long while, Ethan walked into school surrounded by friends instead of walking alone. As they drove home that afternoon, Ethan looked out the window before quietly breaking the silence. Dad, yesterday I was embarrassed because people laughed at your job. He paused, then smiled. Today, I realized they're the ones who didn't understand what real success looks like. Michael reached over and squeezed his son's shoulder. Son, people will always judge what they don't understand. Never let someone else's opinion decide your worth. Honest work will always beat empty pride. Ethan nodded. I'll never forget that. Months later, whenever family lunch day was mentioned at school, students no longer remembered the jokes. They remembered the father who arrived late, stayed calm, and earned everyone's respect without raising his voice. Tyler and Ethan eventually became close friends, and the lesson from that afternoon spread far beyond one cafeteria. Sometimes the richest person in the room isn't the one wearing the most expensive suit, it's the one with the biggest heart and the strongest character. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who believes every honest job deserves respect.